Alright, this is Iron Cross, man-to-man combat on the East Front. This is a still picture from an earlier playthrough. Now I'm playing Scenario 3 still. It's on the table, waiting for me to get back to it. But I'm reading from the combat game rules. So combat was an earlier version of the same design. Changes were made from combat to Iron Cross, but I think that these designer notes are still about 90% relevant, on target, interesting, and capture what the designer is really going for and trying to do. Again, Iron Cross, I think, is a more developed version of this combat rule set. I do believe this game, Combat, what's the... I don't see a subtitle on the rules. Combat, as a matter of fact, this is how it's introduced. Combat is a man-to-man war game covering infantry battles, some real and some fiction, on a tactical level between German and American forces. Again, this is Combat, not Iron Cross. In France, Belgium, and Germany in 1944-45, the scale is 10 meters from hex side to hex side. That stays the same to Iron Cross. Each infantry unit is one man. That's true, although in Iron Cross you do have crew counters. This presents the tendency to use each man individually. Through play, it will be demonstrated that units perform much better effectively when used together as a team, and that is a great aspect of this design. The game is involved and players are urged to take it slow. Yeah, it's very involved, not necessarily complex. Well, yeah, I take that back. It is complex, but it's not necessarily difficult. Yeah. So, yeah, we won't talk about the different levels, the basic game, etc., etc. I've said from the beginning, this is a game, just play it all. Just play it all. Think of it as a whole. This is one to not even bother trying to take this in particular chunks. It's fine to take chunks as in play an all-infantry scenario before playing one with combined arms, etc. So I'm going to pick up this, again, I'm picking up with the designer notes. They are extensive and very good, actually. I know what I was going to say. I do believe that Combat here is the first game of this family, and this, again, was published by a game called Gameforms. I don't think they lasted very long at all. I think they only published... how many games did they publish? I don't know. I don't even know, but they have a Blairsville, Pennsylvania address on the back of the rules here. Alright, so what they call advanced machine gun use in the combat rules here. This rule removes machine guns from the standard small arms rule and more closely represents their employment as weapons of interdiction, which is absolutely right. It's a little bit of extra work placing counters and writing down target hexes, but the overall effect is nice. Players can't charge machine gun nests from a number of directions without thinking about the possible consequences that now exist. I like this without simply making them infantry units with 5 times the combat value. That is absolutely not what's done here. This makes the machine guns actually behave differently. So a problem may crop up between players as to which units are attacked from these modes. I read this before. I'm not sure what this is even referring to. Yeah, I don't. I'm not sure what they're referring to here. But in fire lane mode, all units are attacked. Units may be attacked more than once by the same fire lane if they keep moving through it. That obviously sounds like it can be devastating. Otherwise, units are attacked only once. Spray fire, another mode, is a bit more selective. Units shoot short bursts at selected hexes. Again, units may not be attacked more than once in a phase unless they keep moving in the spray fire area. Intensive fire is a bit risky, more often than not. An MG or machine gun firing intensifier will be inoperable for a time after the fire. It really should not be used unless ammo depletion is used, which is a must. This makes it even more risky to use intensifier, and considering its effects, which are pretty substantially positive, the risk should be high. All right, Panzerfaust bazookas, fire them at buildings to blow holes in the wall or save them for the armor. They represent the best anti-tank weaponry available at close range. Mortars. Mortar rules are generally common sense. They do cover a lot of paper though. With their limited use in the scenarios, I considered not even putting them in the game, but they do have a place, especially for Defender. Ammunition depletion. This rule helps temper rampant grenade throwing and intensifier. It also helps set up some scenarios with one side low on ammo and ready to pull out while the other side storms on the board. Observation. This is one of my favorite rules. It adds depth. I completely agree. It adds depth to the terrain not otherwise achieved. Absolutely. That is one of the best reasons to use this die rolling observation type mechanic, which is based on terrain. It makes the terrain less it makes it less static. It makes it less almost mathematical. Not sure how to put that. I've often wondered why other games do not take this into consideration. The rules are not too complex and they're worth the extra time it takes to determine observation. It definitely takes time. And there are a lot of modifiers. They all make perfect sense. Of course, I'm of the mind that I wouldn't want to see a single one dropped, but it's a lot of modifiers. Improved positions. These are the foxholes, logs, concrete barricades, and what have you that indicates man-made improvements. On the defensive benefits of a piece of terrain, they make open terrain defendable and buildings almost impossible to take. Mines. It was said during a development meeting of combat that the scale does not suit the addition of mines. The units in the game would not be concerned with where mines should and should not be placed. That was left up to the engineers, but time and time again, research uncovered accounts of industrious platoons stumbling across a truck full of mines and setting those mines out in the path of an enemy approach. I almost flipped a coin. One playtester almost flipped a lid. They worked right into the system, and I saw no reason not to include them. They add the uncertainty of groping into enemy-held territory. Yeah, and that's it, mines. Overrun. What would a game containing tanks and infantry be without overruns? I didn't want to find out. The overrun must be clean. I think that from what I've read, they are actually clean, but I haven't demonstrated them yet. Haven't gotten to them yet. Through the target and exit to an available and permissible hex. It adds to the support role of the armor, which was the main reason for including armor. Tank versus tank is a waste of steel. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hidden units, aka Fog of War, work well in tactical games. The idea of creeping into the unknown, where behind every corner danger lurks, is unavoidable. It adds a lot to both the attacker and the defender. Players should use the advanced assault rule when hidden units are involved. Remember that you can't tuck away those AFVs. Such a rule would be overpowering in many cases. Yeah, okay. Optional rules, advanced leaders. I'm not sure what this means. Yeah, I don't know. Advanced assault rules. Again, I don't want to do that. Players may now pre-designate assaults and move in, regardless of whether the hex was vacated or not. This is not arbitrary. Players may place assault arrows and do something else entirely. When using... I don't know. Not exactly sure what they're referring to here. Advanced down and suppression. I think advanced down optional rule here might have been the first bridge or attempt to get to the down state that you have an iron cross as a normal design element. So Not sure I'm going to spend much time here. Yeah. But they, no, what am I going to say? As that's peculiar to combat here, the combat game here. Advanced combat effects. Okay. Another rule that I would just automatically play with. Advanced AFEs. Not sure what the advanced AFE rules were in combat either, but I think all the AFE rules are just incorporated into the Iron Cross rules. That's what I recall anyways. So that is it. That is more than 2 pages. Small font of, what do they call them? They call them a designer's introduction to combat. Combat is what I would call the basic family of rules here. Iron Cross being the most developed version. Such a great design. At the top of my list, or high in my list of greatest games of all time. Just one more thing before I wrap up here. This is another example of what I consider to be an archetype of what a war game should be. Yeah, a great standard